Miki! I'm so glad you noticed this structure. You know, Miki, nature inspires people to do many things, not just music, kind of like this park. The architecture, or the way something is built of this park, Confluence Park, was actually inspired by nature. The designers of Confluence had the intention of collecting rainwater and were inspired by umbrellas and flowers. Let's think about that. Why, when thinking about collecting water, when someone would be inspired by the design of flowers and umbrellas? Let's take a look. Look at this shape of an umbrella, and where is the shape going to make the water go? Now let's take a look at this lily. Where is the water going to go when it hits the lily? Using what is called 3D modeling, and specifically parametric modeling using a CAD or computer-aided design, architects used specific limits on components like the height or the length, which were inspired by flowers and umbrellas. They eventually ended up with what we see here. Yes, Miki? Great question, Miki. What is the difference between 2D and 3D? Let's start with the D. D stands for dimension. And in geometry, a dimension is a measurement of one length in one direction. Like, here's a square. There's the length and the height. So this square is a two-dimensional object because there are only two measurable dimensions, length and height. Let's look at this cube made of 2D squares. When the faces or the sides of the 2D squares join, it creates a cube, which is a 3D object with length, height, and now width. So an object with three measurable dimensions is, you got it, 3D. So the architects, using their 3D CAD program, were successfully able to create a geometric design inspired by umbrellas and flowers that collects rainwater and feeds it into an underground water storage system. This reservoir is the sole source of water used at this park, with the exception of the sinks and drinking fountains. Today, after the lesson, using the templates found in your ebook, you're going to choose a 2D shape and build a 3D object. After you have successfully built your 3D model using the pre-made shapes, I challenge you, like the architects, to place a limitation on yourself on either height of the object for it to be twice as tall or half as short. Good luck! As we learned, Confluence Park was in part inspired by the design of flowers, and flowers play an incredible role in Japanese culture. Yes, Miki, like your dress. Sure, I can tell them the story of cherry blossoms, or sakura in Japanese. In April, cherry trees blossom, and for centuries the Japanese people have hosted hanami or flower viewing parties where they appreciate the sakura flowers and its representation of the cycle of life. Have you noticed all of the blooming flowers and plants in San Antonio? Take a look at these here at Confluence Park. One of the things I love about Confluence Park is how many native plants are here, like this mealy sage or Texas creeping oxeye. Native plants are plants that grow in a specific area and are not introduced by humans, and are important because they typically thrive in the environment. And in San Antonio, this means they can handle our extreme heat and mild winters. A native plant also supports the animals that are native, like this little bumblebee. While the cherry blossom or sakura flower is important in Japan, this is not the only way that flowers are a part of the Japanese culture. They also honor flowers through the art of flower arranging, or Ikebana. In Ikebana, the flower blossoms, branches, leaves, and stems come alive as new materials for art making. Unlike the arrangements we typically see here of casually placing flowers in a vase, Ikebana aims to bring out the inner qualities of flowers and to make them come alive and to express emotion. In San Antonio, we historically also celebrate flowers with the Battle of Flowers. The Battle of Flowers reminds us of the Battle of the Alamo, which was a turning point in the Texas Revolution. The Battle of Flowers festival began in 1891 when local women decorated carriages, baby buggies, and bicycles with live flowers. They met in front of the Alamo, which you would be able to get to if you were to head north up this river, which is the San Antonio River. Now remember, the San Antonio River is one of two rivers that gave Confluence Park its name. Do you remember the other? Say it out loud if you remember. Yes, San Pedro. So at the Alamo, the women threw flowers at one another, thus inspiring the name Battle of Flowers. Soon, other activities were added to the flower parade, including balls and parties and even a carnival. So today, we will celebrate flowers by making a flower for your mom or your friend, maybe your teacher, someone that you appreciate, someone who really helps you to be the best you that you can be. I encourage you to really take some time, really think about someone who inspires you and who you appreciate. I think I'm going to make my flower for my friend Luis, who is always kind and listens when I share my thoughts and feelings and gives me warm hugs whenever I need them. Or maybe I'll make two, one for Luis and one for you, Miki. I've really enjoyed spending time with you, and I also appreciate learning about Japan from you. Let's head back to the Sprouts Lab to go make our flowers. Welcome back to the Sprouts Lab. I'm excited to have you here because we're gonna get to make our flowers. I'm really excited because I get to use my cart. And I love my cart because it has everything that I need on it. So for this particular lesson, you're gonna need some tissue paper, some scissors, some pipe cleaner, and you can find this in your Sprouts ebook. This is just a little template to use for what size you want to use to make your flower. So this is the flower that we're going to be making. It probably looks familiar. My grandmother actually used to make these, and they're all over town during Fiesta. So that's what we're gonna make today. The first thing that you're going to need to do is to take your square. Mine is roughly 8.5 inches, and we're gonna put it in the corner of our tissue paper. You're gonna need about 6 or so pieces of tissue paper. The more you make, just the bigger your flower will be. I'm gonna put it in the corner, and then I'm going to cut out my square. It certainly doesn't need to be perfect, but the closer to a square it is, the better. And like I said, you just wanna make sure that you cut all 6 to the same size. So there's one side. I'm gonna do the other side. I'm gonna turn my thing here. Put that down. All right, cut here. Miki, have you ever made a flower before? No? So you're gonna help make a flower and you're gonna receive one? Lucky Miki. All right, so now that I'm finished with my scissors, I'm gonna put those away. I'm gonna put the rest of my paper away. We can use that more later. And we're gonna start to make our flower. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to fold them to about 1 inch in width, okay? So just so you know, on an adult hand, this part of your knuckle is roughly 1 inch. So for your hand, I would guess it's probably 2 of your first little ones, just for a rough measurement. So I'm gonna fold roughly 1 inch, one direction, and just like if you've ever made a fan, I'm gonna flip it over and fold it another inch the other direction, crease it, fold it back and do another inch the other direction, and we're gonna do this the entire way down. Now, if you want it to be perfect, you can definitely use a ruler or some sort of formal measurement to make that happen. All right, so I have it folded at 1 inch. So next, I'm gonna pick my stem. So if you'll notice, whatever color my pipe cleaner is, that's gonna be the color of the stem. So I think I'm gonna go for a little blue on blue action. So I'm gonna use blue, And I'm going to take this, I'm going to pick up my little thing here. I'm going to find roughly the center. I'm going to fold this in half. And then gently twist at the base of the paper. And then I can twist it all the way down to make my stem. There we go. Next, I'm going to take my scissors again. And I want it to look like a flower, so I'm going to have rounded petals. So each end represents the petals, so I'm going to cut off this square, because I don't want square petals, and turn this into a curve. Need some sharp scissors because there's lots of paper there. So I got one side, and now the other side. Cut that into another circle. Yeah, perfect. So now we have something that looks kind of like this. So I have on both sides curved edges, and I have my pipe cleaner. So now comes the fun part. So now we're just going to pull this open and pull this open. And we're going to separate all of the pieces of tissue paper to make the different parts of the flower. So pull it apart, pull it apart. So you want to be kind of careful here because you want to make sure you don't want to tear any of your paper. No one wants anything torn. If it does tear, that's okay. It'll add to its unique beauty. All right, so I'm going to finish this up, give one of my flowers to Miki. And I think we're done for today. We learned all about all of flower making and battle of flowers and being inspired by nature. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day.